New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hi.
It's the Practical Prayer Podcast pre-show.
Pre-show. Yeah.
And my fondness for alliteration. Good afternoon, Carol. Or since we're scheduled in Mountain Time, it's still good morning, I guess, for the network.
Okay, so hi, everybody.
And good morning and good afternoon and good evening to all of you around the world.
Yeah.
Before getting into the pre-show here, we're going to start the recording of the Practical Prayer Podcast any minute now. Carol and I were completely distracted by other things, including models of theology. So we didn't talk about what this episode of the podcast is going to be about.
Well, first of all, let me just say this, and we can't conclude what we were talking about before, but we left on a comma, right? So
well, yeah, but that's a conversation that started 50 years ago for you, so we've got time.
Yeah, but I just got to tell you how much you inspired this whole study. You really did. You don't think so, do you? But
no, I'm fine with that. Thank you, or I'm sorry, depending on how it's going for you.
Well, on some days I thought, you know what, I should have listened to what he said. I wouldn't be trying to figure this out now. But yeah, it was good. But anyway, so you want to know what we're going to talk about?
What are we going to talk about today?
Okay. All is mind.
Okay.
Well, sometimes I'll bring up a subject and you'll say, oh, I really like that. I can really talk about that. This one, all is mind. And you're saying, okay.
All right.
This is not one of those subjects that really
Well, actually, that's something we were also talking about. It's like we've got the head-based stuff and the heart-based stuff. And Ernest Holmes, at the end of his work, towards the end of his life, said that it's all love and it's all law, and he wished he'd spent more time on the love, because he spent a lot of time on the law part, and that's the stuff that's in our heads. And he went and called his book The Science of Mind, and the magazine as well. So there's gonna be a bunch of mind there, and it's actually really important. It is hugely important, and there's a step to go from it's all mind to get us out of our heads and into our hearts and be living in that. So I have this tendency to be too heady.
I was getting ready to say, well, you just took all the fizzle out of that one, didn't you? Just.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry.
Okay, so could that be interchangeable or synonymous with the idea of like the soil of the universe?
Sort of, because it's one mind works two different ways, and the soil is one of the ways that it works.
Okay, so maybe we'll sort that out on the.
We will sort that out. Oh, there is plenty of content here. There is tons and tons of content here. It's yeah, there's just tons of content here.
Yeah. Well, I guess as we talk through this, if I'm not so busy listening, because I'm always like listening to you, I might be able to tell you why this is important to me. However, we'll wait and see.
All right. Well, let's jump into the podcast then, and we will then explore the topic, and we will share our equal time listening and talking.
I'll listen. I'd rather listen, but.
All right, I'm going to click the button.
All right.
A practical prayer is a prayer that works.
These discussions between Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence dive into the details of how it works and how to work it.
Reverend Bill is a New Thought minister and the author of Practical Prayer for Real Results.
Your new life begins with a new thought.
Carol Lawrence is on a spiritual quest, finding the New Thought teaching after decades on the pulpit in 3 different traditional denominations.
I've got some questions.
Together, they're exploring the philosophy and activities that come together from many of the world's religions to create the practical spirituality that is New Thought.
Welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony for another amazing conversation.
And this time you want to talk about the notion that all is mind.
Yes. I want to talk about it, and based on your initial response when I mentioned it, I guess instead of talking about it, you're going to sort it out so I can see what it is about it that fascinates me so much.
Okay, well, one of the big creative types in the New Thought teaching is Ernest Holmes, and he called basically his teaching and his textbook are the science of mind, and that puts mind like right up front, and that's exactly what he meant. That when he says that all is mind, there is one divine mind. And as he puts it, there is one mind, that mind is my mind now. And what he wants to make sure is that we understand the mind that we are thinking with is that same one mind. There's not another one. So when we say all is mind, the important part there isn't so much mind, it's all. All is one. There's one mind, and that mind is creative, and that mind is creating, and that mind has created each of us. And that mind has created the mind with which we are thinking, and that's the same mind. It didn't come from someplace else. It is a subset of the infinite mind, but it's the same one. We are not separate and distinct from that one mind.
Okay, that's good. That was totally my understanding. But when your response made me think before we came on, is he going to say something else? Because like, hey, I've been operating on this, and this has been working great for me. Of course, when I first found Science of Mind, I didn't understand. Actually, I read Charles Hannell first, and he talked about it, and it just was absolutely not clear because I didn't have the proper foundation that I needed. So mind, the way I distinguished it, is mind with a capital M, which means that's divine as opposed to, the little mind or whatever with the small m.
Right.
And as I learned a little bit more and accepted the oneness idea and the unity and all of that, it works so well for me. Like not just magic, but just almost magic. Because I'm a writer and I'm always writing in different ways about things. And there are times when I would get stuck. Of course, I'm not going to say I get writer's block. I'm just not saying that because writer's block is indefinite. You could be like hung up for whatever. I'm only going to get stumped for a couple of minutes because that's what I said. And when I understood mind as expressed through what I understood as Ernest Holmes' perspective of it, I thought, okay, whatever I want to know or understand is in the mind of God, and this is my mind now, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
so, and so then I envisioned this this mind being all around me, like everywhere around me.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the earlier classes that I took with you, you talked about putting things in the soil.
Right.
And so I thought, okay, so it's all in this soil, right? It's floating around here somewhere. This is just the way I can understand it. And when I'm searching for clarity on something, then I've said, listen, this is practical. It's here. It's my mind. It's out there. It's not somewhere else. I got to just either reach over here and get it. Focus, is it on the, don't laugh. Is it on the right? is the thought over in the side? Whatever. That I had to make it that practical for me. So that I wouldn't become frustrated when I can't find the right path that I'm looking for or the right information. So I know it's in mind somewhere, and I need to open the mind,
Right.
whether it's
open the channel.
yeah, whatever it is, so that it can come. And it actually does, that's the reality for me. It plays out perfectly well all the time, by the way. So,
and just to discuss that creative process and how it works, there are three different aspects to the infinite that that are always in operation. And the one that everybody's familiar with is the one that we're living in, the world of form. And that's, where you get up and brush your teeth. And that's where you have interactions with other people. And that's where all of the stuff is. So the world of form is the entire manifest universe. From the tiniest particle that we can imagine to the farthest planet in the biggest galaxy. It is all part of that universe of form. And it's possible for us to live our entire lives just dealing with the universe of form, just dealing at the physical, experiential, Newtonian level of this is where my body lives, and this is where I live, and this is where my thinking happens. And we just consider it all to be here. And the New Thought teaching is about how does it get to be here, and that becomes our relationship and our interaction with Spirit or the infinite or the divine or God or whatever we're going to call it. And the notion that we have is that everything in the world of form is created by that one. It is the divine. It is God. It is nature. It is whatever sharing itself as its creation. So there's that creative power, that infinite presence that is individualized as everything in experience. And in fact, what seems to all be separate is only separate from our perspective because it's all God. It is all God. And then the notion is, where did it come from? Well, that's where the mind part comes in. The parts that are not apparent to us from our five senses, because we don't have any way of detecting them, is the fact that there is a creative law. And that creative law is creating everything. When that creative law is told to create a new experience for Carol, it does. It responds. It says yes, and it does. When that creative law is told to invent space travel, the answer is yes, and it does. And stuff happens in the world of form that we're experiencing. And suddenly, where there was no space travel before, now there's space travel. And then the question becomes, well, what is it that's directing that law? What is it that's directing that creative process that is creating everything in our world of experience? And that's mind. That is what we call consciousness. That is the level of intentionality, where that one infinite mind, that divine creative presence, that infinite intelligence, has the ability in consciousness to set an intention, whether it's let me plant a flower or let there be light. It's the same. And on that cosmic level, the creation of the universe level, it was that one infinite creative power, that one mind that said, let there be this manifest universe. And the law said yes, and it started expressing and unfolding and revealing itself as the manifest universe. And maybe there's evolution going on. Some people like to argue with that, so let's just leave that aside. There's definitely growth going on, because there was a generation before my generation and a generation before their generation. We have books, we have stories for a bunch of it. Well, a little bit of the recent part, we have videos or movies or pictures or writing. But it's been going on for a while, and the time unfolds and things happen, the interactions happen with each other, and it continues going. But that is all that one infinite creative power continuing to reveal itself. So when we say all is mind, it all started as that divine power and presence, that infinite intelligence saying, I'm going to do a universe. And everything is coming from that. So everything that exists is that one mind sharing itself in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
That was not concise, but hopefully I captured it for you.
No, you did. It was excellent. Thank you so much. But it's like, it's beautiful, but it's like one of those things in my way of doing things. You got to understand that first so that everything else makes sense. Do you know what I mean? It just does make sense once you get that down, but it's very contrary to traditional theology.
Oh, yeah.
Very much so. However, though, I have to say this, and I got to confess before the whole world.
Okay.
The more I study, the more I see it in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
The more I study New Thought, the more I see it in the Bible, which
and
makes
you've been reading the Bible for a while.
Yeah. And like I told you before, and okay, here's another thing, confessing before the world. Like when I just couldn't handle certain things anymore, I was tossing out the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
That was gone. And I picked up other sacred texts and other sacred scriptures and found so much consistently in all of them, including the Bible. So then I did a timeline, because it's not like the Bible started everything, like, certain teaching would like you to think. It just, in some ways, it kind of brings together or repeats or whatever things that were written thousands and thousands of years before the Bible came into existence. And I started looking at it differently. And I thought, okay, well, this is not something that somebody, like they told me a group sat together at a table and they put all this together. They didn't tell the whole story, right? They didn't. So, all right, forget about that. That's important. But so then I'm studying and I'm listening and studying, and between you and what I read on my own and my ascended masters that I call my mentors, I'm looking at the Bible. I'm saying it's all right here. So last week you talked about spirituality and religion, and you asked me why I didn't see a difference. No, don't, because it's all right there. I don't know what everybody's all upset about. All of this, we got to figure out how to bring people together and understand it. Come on, it's not all that different. It ain't that deep. We could talk about it. Peel back a layer. Don't be scared. 1 layer, 2 layers. It's all right there.
Yeah, and we can, but if you start with the assumption that you know what the Bible is about, and you read through it from that perspective, as you have noticed for 35 years on the pulpit, that you can tell the story that you want to tell pretty consistently, and it's only when you're ready to understand it from a different perspective that you get to see the other stories.
Okay, exactly. But here's what I absolutely believe. At some time, sitting in that pew, you had a question. A couple of questions. Maybe more than a couple of questions. You let it go. But they stick there in your mind. Maybe it's something is disturbing your peace, or whatever. Peace is the thing people are really into. Like they talk about prosperity and money, but everybody wants peace of mind. And it maybe, just maybe, your peace is disturbed by unanswered questions. How about that? And you don't have to make any big, deep decisions, but maybe something that's, causing you a little bit of, hey, yeah, I really wonder about that. Hey, check that out. You know, I'll tell you this. When I was serving in the United Methodist Church, this is in the 90s, the big thing was homosexuality in the church, and everybody's just going all ballistic over that. And I'm thinking, I don't see what's wrong with y'all. Like, why are y'all all upset over this? It's not like this is anything new. And then why are you acting like this is something from outer space? Okay, it's your, come on, let's just be fair about this. You can't tell me the people that were opposed and being ugly about it didn't have a question. Somewhere along the line, if you're hanging out with spirit and God, or whatever you want to call God, and you're, all religious and sort of religious, that thing had to bother you somewhere along the way, that maybe the way we're treating these people is not right. Maybe when we're calling everybody brother and sister, while everything is good, right? Everybody who is the same, so to speak, is together. We're all happy and talking about love. But when you're challenged with difference, now your belief, what you're saying is challenged, but you rather not say that, right? You rather say it's wrong. And to me, that's when you stepped out of the realm of God, the realm of spirit, the realm of love. You stepped out of that. Okay? You need to fix those questions. That's what I think. It's a challenge to say, you got to love everybody.
You can. Right? And for everybody, the last straw is going to be different. When I abandoned traditional religion, I was 12. I think I had just turned 12. And the reason was even more fundamental for me. Let's take a break and we will talk about pulling the ripcord on our religions.
Learn to put practical prayer to work in your life. The steps are simple to learn and let you begin to get real results to create the life of your dreams immediately. Reverend Bill Marchiony's widely acclaimed book, Practical Prayer for Real Results, gives you a clear summary of the New Thought principles behind practical prayer and the series of easy-to-understand steps found in the most effective prayers from religions and spiritual practices all over the world and throughout history. Practical prayer is not a replacement for your religion or practice. It's a technique to make the work you do in consciousness even more effective. The book includes 40 prayers on various topics that you can adapt as needed and use as your own. Practical Prayer for Real Results is available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook on Amazon or at b-the-light.com. That's b-the-light.com.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony. And
we're talking about pulling the ripcord on your religion. Yeah. So I was 12 years old. I was in confirmation classes as the United Church of Christ. And there were volunteers. My friend's dad was teaching the class, and there's other people in the church who were doing this. And they're answering all of our questions and giving us very sound explanations about why the stuff that they're teaching us from the Bible and from our tradition are all true. And I got to one question. Actually, there were two. There was one that was important, which was, how do you know Jesus was the only Son of God? Mm. And they said, you just have to take that on faith. And I said, everything else you're teaching me is based on that being true. You have built a house of cards on top of something that you say, I just have to believe you. So you haven't proven anything. And this, to me, there's no difference between this and complete hypocrisy because you haven't explained anything. Mm-hmm. And furthermore, you're not going to try to explain anything because you're just claiming that I have to accept it as true.
Oh, you were a gutsy kid.
Well, it's like there's some things that when they're obvious to me, it's like, what am I going to, I couldn't pretend anymore. So I told my parents, I can't pretend anymore. They said, oh, you shouldn't go. I was like 2 weeks away from confirmation. They had already given me the Bible, which I still have.
But you had great parents, though. That makes a huge difference.
It baffled me. That was like the only time I can remember them saying, oh, you don't want to do this? Okay, fine. It's like, who are these pod people who look like my parents?
You know what? Maybe they had questions too, and their kid had guts enough to articulate them.
Well, I came to understand in hindsight or afterwards, because there was part of the story that I didn't know, is that my mother and her family, when they escaped Nazi Germany in 1939, had been Jewish before they left and had embraced Christianity. It was a blended family, so they already knew all of the language and all of the holidays and stuff. But they embraced their Christianity because it was really dangerous to be Jewish. And so there's my mother. She was 8 when they left. But I think it's pretty difficult for somebody who's Jewish to not know it by the time they're 8. But she wound up teaching Sunday school. So to me, I was in her class. And so the willingness to go with the truth that you believe, I think that probably informs why there was that much flexibility in my spirituality and my choice of religion, rather than somebody who's like, we've always been Baptists, of course you're going to be Baptist, or Jewish, or, fill in the blank.
Because when you come here, you don't get a whole choice. You just you just roll right in. And nobody along the way, which is interesting to me, nobody along the way says these simple words. This is one perspective. You never hear that. This is all there is. And when you feel constrained by, like being in a box, this is all there is. There's no opening, right? So you pull the ripcord, as you say, you say, look, this is what, I don't know what's on the other side, but this is enough of this. And I say that respectfully, really. There are some times that I'll sound like I'm not bashing anything. I'm just saying that there's more to be considered. And you don't have to believe it. Just consider another point of view. That's all.
I have developed in my later years a tremendous respect and appreciation for the stuff that's in the Bible, especially the things that Jesus said and did. Jesus was very clearly the Son of God, and he said so. And he also said some other things that we didn't really focus on. That's one of the other things that you've pointed out, is that once you've taken a perspective, once you say that, oh, well, this is the way that we need to look at this, you can't see it from any other perspective. But Jesus said everything that he did, we can do. And that I completely believe. Now, am I able to do it to the level that Jesus did? No, not up until now. Although there's been some absolutely awesome things that I've been involved in, which are completely inexplicable, ways that I'm using that infinite creative power that creates everything, and I'm using that one mind that abides within me to create something new and spectacular. I mean, we talk about that at New Thought Philadelphia in our Sunday celebrations. Every week we do prayer work stories. This is what I prayed for, and this is the cool thing that happened.
When I read the words that Jesus said, I listen to them, of course, now from a different perspective. They aren't words that somebody said, like poetry, and articulated by a God man who is so far from anything that I could ever hope to be, but bringing it in closer and saying, this is a truth that can be mine as well. Maybe not, and you just said, maybe you can't do all the things he can do right now in your life. Okay, but I don't have to do them all right now, right? I don't have to do that right now. All I'm trying to do is manifest this particular thing, or understand this particular thing, or straighten out this particular thing. And the Christ mind, or, accessing that Jesus mind, that Christ mind, or that image, or whatever you want to call it, is all I need at this moment. That's good. And so next, and I don't see it as that big a deal because Jesus said you could do it if he said, see, listen, don't tell me something. I'm like a little kid in that way. Don't tell me something and then say it can't really happen. I'm just kind of saying it. Or it's true, but well, it's not kind of sort of true. Listen, if Jesus says I can do it, then I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not doing it, it's something that I am not thinking properly, something's in the way. But hey, Jesus said it, fine. I'm going to leave it at that because the next thing I was going to say could clearly be misunderstood.
Well, then let's go back to talking about accessing the one mind.
Okay.
Because it's all one mind. And one of my examples is the God calls. Because, God calls 30 seconds. It's a little pithy, inspirational thing. And, a lot of people find it remarkably difficult. They would take days or hours to figure out what their God call would be about and how to get it down to 30 seconds. And it turns out that's one of my gifts. I was in radio and I was in advertising. I can write a 30-second spot. I can write a 30-second bit. The God calls are about 30 seconds long. And rather than slaving over them and figuring out, like, what's the production schedule going to be or any of the rest of that, my process is to say, okay, time to record God calls. And I turn on the recording software and I just go within and I invite Spirit to suggest what the God call is about. And something comes to mind and I hit the record button. And 30 seconds later, well, actually about 45 seconds later, it's recorded. There's a little bit of editing to do because I like to trim them down for my ums and uhs and sidetracks. But it's not an hours-long process. It's a minutes-long process because I am able, in my belief system, I'm owning that I have the ability to access that. And then I'm letting the one mind fill us in and let the recording happen.
That is so absolutely magic. It's not really magic, but that's my word because I'm still so enamored with what Spirit has shown me. It's just fabulous to be able to, when you pray, a lot of times you'll say, turn away from the things that are distracting you, the things in the world, and you could gloss over that, but to be able to turn away from everything else and kind of say that I'm in a place right now and this is what I want from Spirit, or this is what I'm doing, and that's what happens. That's a great thing. That's you don't have to pray for hours and hours and days and get other people to pray for you and then hope that maybe somehow, some way it's going to happen. It's like, no, just calm yourself down. It's out there or in there, whichever way you want to look at it, and let it happen, turning away from other things. Yeah. So,
and sometimes if it's in our wheelhouse, if it's our gift, then it becomes effortless and astounding to other people. I have on numerous occasions tried to learn to play the piano, and I have been unsuccessful. And it comes to my attention that is probably one of those things that's not in my wheelhouse. So I could probably struggle and figure out how to play the piano badly to the point where I can make my way through a few songs. And that's not the way I want to do it. So I don't, and I do other things, like record God calls. Let's take a break, and when we return, we will do a prayer on being aware of our oneness with that infinite mind.
Get inspiration in an instant. God calls are the gentle and uplifting moment of truth to help you remember that the bright light of God's love is shining right now as you.
It's your God Call with Reverend Bill.
Start your 2-week free trial today, and you'll get a phone call 4 times a week from Reverend Bill with an uplifting half-minute message filled with insight, wisdom, story, and fun.
Let your light shine.
You can answer the call to listen to it live or let it go to voicemail so you can hear it later. After the free trial, your subscription is just $5.95 a month. The details are at godcall.org. God calls are disruptive, intentionally.
Whenever you write something, put on a gold star.
They take you away from your routine to remind you about the truth of who you really are. They come at random times between 8:15 a.m. and 6 p.m., so you won't be expecting them. And somehow, the message is exactly what you need to hear at the time.
Magic is loose in the world.
It's a moment of motivation in the middle of your day. Find out more and start your 2-week free trial now at godcalled.org.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol. You're with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony.
A good conversation about the one mind.
Yeah. We could go on, though.
Oh, we can, but that's what other episodes of the podcast are for.
Okay.
Bookmark it, and we'll get back to that.
I will.
Because right now what I want to do is a prayer. And we're talking about one mind, and there is one mind, and all is that mind. And the question might come up about, well, what does that have to do with me? What does the fact that there's one mind have to do with the way that my life is unfolding or the experiences that I'm having? And the answer is everything. And so the prayer is to be aware of that one mind and to be aware that we are expressions of that one, and that the mind with which we are thinking is that one mind. Because that opens up a huge range of possibilities, in fact, an infinite range of possibilities. So, and it's because we're using that one creative power, that one mind, to think a thought. And we are also using that one mind to be informed. That's even better than Google. You can just, when there's something that we want to know, we can turn our attention to the one mind and invite that one mind to inform us or to guide us to the knowledge that we're seeking. And then suddenly, boom, there it is. It shows up. And it's remarkable the number of people who have stories about that as something that they were looking for hours or years or decades. And suddenly when they were thinking about something else and they opened to a new possibility, there it was right in front of them. That happens to us all the time. So let us turn our attention to the one mind, that one infinite intelligence, that divine mind, the mind of God, the mind of the Creator, the mind that knows everything. There is just this one mind. In the beginning, there was only the one. Infinite intelligence, limitless energy and power and potential, and it made the conscious intention to begin sharing itself. From the outside, that looked like the Big Bang, or the description of however you're interpreting the scripture that said in the beginning there was darkness and void, and God said, let there be light. That one set the intention, let there be. And the creative law began responding immediately. That infinite creative law said yes. And the light began to shine, and the universe began to expand, and the good and the good and the good continued to unfold. Everything is that one mind, taking its own specific and particular form. Every person, everywhere, is an expression of that one. And the mind with which we think is our own individualization of that one mind. There is no distinction, there's no separation. There's not my mind over here and then the mind of God over there. There's the mind of God that is everything that is everywhere, and my mind, the mind with which I am thinking, that I'm aware of, is my own particular access point to that infinite mind. So there are two things that we know. We know that everything that is knowable anywhere is also knowable everywhere. It has to be, because it's one mind. So anything which I am seeking, any knowledge which I am opening myself to, is available. And that infinite mind, that divine presence, is ever willing to share itself as and through and in me. That guidance is available at any time. And because I know there is only one mind, and that mind is my mind now, that mind belongs and is part of each of us now, we're thinking with that one mind. We are using that one infinite creative power to create our lives in a new and fresh way. So whatever good it is that we are inviting, as we implant the intention for that good into the one mind, that infinite creative law that always says yes is responding. So as each of us sets the intention now, and in subsequent moments, getting clarity about exactly that which we are seeking, which we are desiring, which we are opening ourselves to, that infinite creative power is responding. It's saying yes. And this good is coming into being. This good is coming into being. And it's happening now. There's no delay. There's no wait. There's no having to earn brownie points or deserve it. There is no hesitation required whatsoever. It may be something that seems up front to be completely impossible. We have no idea how that's going to happen. So we suspend our disbelief. We discard our need to know how, our desire to understand the specifics of the circumstance, and set our intention to open to that, the feeling, the tone and texture and timbre of that new experience, and allow that infinite creative power that creates everything to create the new experience for us and to fill us with that feeling. And that's how love unfolds, and that's how growth happens, and that's how the law works. So I'm grateful for the awareness of the law. I'm grateful for the good that's coming into being for and through and as each of us. And I'm grateful for the stories we get to tell about it. And so with gratitude for all of this good, I speak this word on behalf of each one listening. And I release it into that creative law, the one that always says yes, knowing without any question whatsoever that it once again is saying yes. It's saying yes. This good is on its way now. And I let it be. And so it is. Amen.
The Practical Prayer Podcast with Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence is a production of BeTheLight.com,
be-the-light.com,
where you can find more information about practical prayer for real results.
Our theme is by Music of Wisdom. You can learn about the spiritual community of New Thought Philadelphia with daily guided meditations,
Weekly celebrations of spirit,
and Reverend Bill's classes in practical spirituality
at newthoughtphilly.org.
And we are now at the post-show, still online on the New Thought Media Network.
I got to have that prayer.
Okay.
You send me a clip.
Yeah. Yeah,
Go ahead.
No, I take the prayers that I do on the closing segment of the podcast, and a lot of them I post on Insight Timer, just standalone as prayers. So I will make sure that first of all, that we do this one quickly. there's a lag sometimes. Sometimes it happens the same day as the podcast, and sometimes it's like months later and they're still sitting in the can someplace.
Oh no, I can't wait months later for that one. I gotta, push that one up.
That's my lack of predictability. But production schedule. I make a production schedule, and God laughs.
Okay.
I think I'm paraphrasing something there.
All right. But thanks. I really appreciated that one. That's really good.
Thank you.
And I also noticed that you're starting to try to signal when you're praying.
Oh, well, every once in a while, and I've told some of my minister colleagues, I actually got them all to laugh at an executive board meeting by saying, I'm going to start praying by saying, let us pray. And they all laughed. They all thought it was hysterical because they realized that we don't do that. In New Thought, we don't generally start the prayer by saying, let us pray.
Is that Oliver?
That's my dog is coming into the room. He's very, very hesitant with doors.
Oh, okay.
So he'll stand outside a mostly open door and kind of knock. Yeah.
I thought today was a really good one.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a good topic. I love it. And see, the podcast episode, better than you thought it was going to be based on my lukewarm reaction when you first brought it up.
Yeah. Between the time I brought it up and, you played the intro and all of that, I thought, maybe I better come up with something else. Because this one doesn't seem like it's got any juice in it. Just for me. And probably, there's a lot of things like feeling really hot because I just got finished doing this concentrated writing and all of that. So, but it was great.
Yeah,
actually,
good episode.
Yeah.
And again, the reminder for the folks who are watching on the live stream, this time pre and post recording are yours. If there is a topic that you'd like us to discuss, or if there's a particular prayer that you'd like to hear, then by all means you can put it in the chat if you're here live, or you can go to BeTheLight.com and send a note from there. All of my contact information is available. And then something wonderful will happen the way that you want it. Yeah, we'll go with that.
That's for sure.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much. This brings our episode to a close. And arrivederci?
See you.